Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is the first $11 million episode of our podcast. And the listeners at home are going to be saying, what'd you spend the $11 million on? And the answer is, we're only showing you a very, very, very small portion of what we spent the $11 million on. But trust us, it was all worth it.
Right. And in the interest of protection and things of that nature, we can't get into everything and all of the findings and exactly what we found, but we can do some bullet points and we can also tell you some of the good stuff we found. All right. We should start with some of the good and maybe get in a little bit of the bad. But no, we are here to talk about the news that Michigan Athletic Director Warde Manuel is out in 5 months and 11 days. He is, he will be stepping down at the end of the year. He offered up his resignation per the Michigan interim president, Domenico Grasso, and Grasso was like, no, I want you to stay through the end of the year and help me implement these culture changes that we need. And we'll get into that aspect of this whole thing. So Michigan released some of the findings in a roundabout way. They didn't necessarily release any of the no bloody glove, so to speak, but just saying, hey, there might have been some bloody gloves. The evidence, the reports saying that there wasn't as much oversight and things of that nature, and to the two pronged investigation from the legal firm that they had, which was investigate how they handled the Sharon Moore situation post firing and pre firing, and then also a greater let's look into the culture of the athletic department and see what we could find there. And so some of that not the entire report given to from the legal people given to the university was released, but a summary. I'm not saying it was like Chat GPT. Go ahead and take these findings and put them into something that we can spit out to the people, but in a more of a sanitized version. But yes, didn't look great for Warde Manuel, but again, they never necessarily accuse him or put anything at his feet other than some just lack of oversight. You know,
Right. Yeah, they're very specific. The report is very specific about where they really excel. And then the what went wrong, it gets a little more vague. And whose fault is it? Well, I've read through it, and I don't know that I have a great answer on that. It's Tony. This is one of these things that it's no one's fault. It's society's fault. I blame society for that. But yeah, I you got to the findings section of the release, and it says, what were the principal findings of the culture review? And it's like, all right, here we go. Let's dive into the $11 million investigation. And the first sentence is, the culture review found that the Department of Athletics has many significant strengths, including a strong commitment to student athlete success, competitive excellence, and academic achievement that includes a 96% student athlete graduation rate. In addition, staff members spoke highly of the department's workplace culture, and 87% of employees who departed the university said they would recommend working there. Tony, Michigan Athletic Department. It's got a great personality, doesn't it?
and that's a lot of what the report was, where the findings are they'll give you the positive and then a little bit of the negative. And I wrote a column on Monday. It's like you get a report like, yeah, your well is deep and wet, but 4 kids have fallen in and drowned. It's like there's some give and some take, and that was one of the things with Warde Manuel, where basically say the I'm just scrolling through real quick. Sorry about that. He has this attentiveness to student athletes, which is great. That's what you want. That's what athletic directors should do. And then it's also, but he failed to quickly take care of reports about perhaps some wrongdoing, and it's like, well, that's not good. So like the actual words here is on Warde Manuel. The culture review found that Warde Manuel demonstrated important leadership strengths, particularly his commitment to student athletes. Great job. And then the next sentence, at the same time, it identified failures to quickly and effectively act on allegations of wrongdoing by athletic department employees. And so it's like, well, the positive review there is he cares about student athletes. Like, to paraphrase Chris Rock, what do you want, a cookie? You're supposed to take care of your kids, and that's what they're giving him credit here for. But then, of course, at the same time, it identified failures, plural, to quickly and effectively act on allegations, plural, of wrongdoing by athletic department employees, plural. Now, maybe this is all just referring to one instance of some sort, but it's interesting then that it's bad enough for him to, according to Grasso, offer up his resignation, and Grasso to say, no, wait. But also Grasso he released like a 5-minute video of what's going on. And part of his video is he said that the investigation found, quote, interference, poor oversight, and failures of accountability by the highest levels of university leadership. This must change. And then he went in, and Ward wanted to resign. I said, no, you stay till the end of the year. And and then also, and then he also goes on to say that he's going to use Warde Manuel and one of the president's trusted VPs to serve as special advisor to the president and help implement their planned culture reforms on these recommendations that have been put forth by the law firm on how to fix all of these things. So basically, Warde Manuel is being kept on to help implement the programs that his program was unable to uh, do in his watch, right? So all of these things are now would be recommended and required because they weren't there or present when he was in charge, which he still is kind of in charge now. And as I wrote in my column, it's kind of like Tom in The Rock when they made Sean Connery's character break into Alcatraz because he was the only one who had ever broken out. Like, you've got to get the guy who didn't, none of this applied to, or that all of this craziness was going on, and have him be the one that sort of helps stop it all. And that kind of, I don't know how much sense that makes.
Well, if the president himself is saying this goes up to the highest levels of the university, he's probably not talking about himself there. So what's one level below him? Well, it's the vice president level, or in the athletic department, it's Warde Manuel. So then Warde Manuel is saying, okay, well, I'm ready to step aside, and you're like, no, 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 I'd have just the guy. Tony, we've got some irregularities at Enron. However, I've asked Ken Lay to stick around for 6 months to fix everything, get everything be ship shape, no problem. It'll be fine. Yeah, it's a little weird. It's also, I think you also need to recognize that situationally, there's a bunch going on at Michigan right now where they've got a new football coach, they've got a new basketball coach who's not an interim coach, but he's got a 2-year contract, so he's functionally an interim coach. You've got an interim university president because they just tried to hire a new university president from Syracuse, and then he was diagnosed with brain tumors and had to pull his name out. So now they're back to starting that process essentially over. So you've got a interim university president, a brand new football coach, a brand new basketball coach. So I can understand why a little bit of stability might be in your best interest. It's not necessarily because Warde Manuel is just the guy to fix the culture that Warde Manuel has been running and there have been issues with for a number of years. But I think a little bit of stability, like, I kind of get it. I did think the question, what did the culture review find regarding oversight of the football program? I thought this answer was very interesting. The culture review found that the football program's prominence and organizational structure created unique oversight challenges. Yeah, that's literally every football program at a high level in the nation. Yeah, it presents some unique challenges. As the department's most visible program with the largest roster, coaching staff, and support organization, football requires particularly strong oversight and accountability. The culture review concluded that existing oversight mechanisms were not sufficiently effective and recommended strengthening leadership oversight, clarifying responsibilities, enhancing reporting relationships, and improving compliance processes. Boy, Tony, I don't know. If you were to go back to, I don't know, say, let's just pick a random number, the last 5 years, say 2021, I feel like the lack of oversight, real strict oversight there, has been maybe a little bit of a feature and not a bug in some cases with some of the various stories that we've seen going on with Michigan. And frankly, if you look at, I mean, how many years in a row? This is going to be the first year since 2000 and what, 2021 that Michigan's head football coach is not going to be serving a suspension at some point during the season. 2022, I think, the last time, because Harbaugh was suspended in 23. I think he had served a suspension earlier in 23, if I remember correctly, and then Sharon
Mhm.
Moore was served a suspension in 24, and then was fired in the middle of the year 25, and also didn't get to go to the Oklahoma game last year. Or no, he missed the game after the Oklahoma game because he got to choose. He got to play choose his own adventure with his suspension. So, I don't know where the idea that there's sort of lax oversight and accountability in that department would come from, Tony. That feels. This is the kind of thing you need to spend $11 million to figure out. It's certainly not the kind of stuff that we've been talking about out loud on this very show for multiple years now.
Yeah, and the fact that it's hard to keep up with all of the suspensions is not our fault. Like Googling, was it 2022? Was it 2023? Was it the first half of the season? Was it the second half? That's not our fault.
It's like the Spuckler's kids. Like, I get it why Cletus and Brandine can't keep them all straight. There's a lot of them. There's a
Yeah, it's
whole mess of kids. There's a whole mess of suspensions.
and the funny thing, yeah, and as I wrote in my column, it's like he's seen so many suspensions, you'd think he was a high school principal, because it's just like way more. And the thing is, it's not the kids, it's the coaches. They could throw in all of the players, the 100 players into that number of boy. You know, it's so hard to watch over a program when you've got 100 players. It's like, what about the 15 coaches? Been the big problem.
Right. Yeah. The 100 players, they have not had disciplinary issues really in Michigan for several years. I mean, there was something little. Mozzie Smith had a
Mhm.
traffic stop a couple years ago, but it's like you're looking at stuff like that, and it's like, in terms of college football player malfeasance, that's pretty low on the scale. Has the FBI arrested one of your assistant coaches? Sure has. Has another was your subsequent offensive coordinator incarcerated on a felony charge that he later played it down? Sure did. Did your former head coach flee to the NFL to beat a long NCAA show cause? Sure did. Did your former defensive coordinator flee to the NFL to beat a NCAA show cause? Sure did. It's like everyone who has had a leadership position in that organization, coordinator or head coach,
Mhm.
other than Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale has escaped scot free with without facing any kind of allegations. Which, that is he a good culture fit there? I don't. You certainly have questions over the last few years.
Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to put all of this on Ward because you just mentioned all of the things like this stuff is happening on his watch, but he's not the one doing it. Still, it feels like all of those coaches, there was some sort of an understanding of things are lax. Ward is one of us. He's a Michigan man. He's a Michigan football man. He's it. Is he like a not like a substitute teacher where you can get away with some stuff? That's not what he is. But it's like they certainly felt that emboldened enough to go around some rules, do whatever needed, and you know, there's certainly no proof shown in this release. Not that there would be that Warde Manuel was aware of anything improper. It's just one of those things that all of these things are happening on your watch, and that also, yeah, it's so much of it. There's just so much going on that he offers up to resign, and they will accept it. But has he grown tired of Michigan? Have they grown tired of him? I think there's a little bit of both of that. And it was interesting, even what last week when Warde Manuel, all of this report came out, like he's gonna be out, he's fired, he's done. And then he was talking with Sam Webb on the radio show and YouTube show about not necessarily going anywhere. And he was out there, kind of not promoting himself, but defending himself. And one of the things he said that, like, I don't need the credit, but if you think all these championships are happening without me, like, I'm going to stand up and say, like, no, they didn't. It's like, I don't need the credit, but I'm telling you, if you don't give me some of that credit, you're wrong. And now he's like, yeah, I do wonder exactly what happened. The president says he offered, he offered to step down, and it's like these are all very, very political negotiations. All of the words being said about anybody's future it's all been negotiated, and we've seen it at Ohio State, we've seen it at Michigan, seen it everywhere else. So it's interesting. Like I can say that, and I even wrote, Warde Manuel was asked to step down, or Warde Manuel offered to step down, and the Michigan president said no because that's what they're telling me. Do I believe that entirely? I don't know.
Yeah, this is one of those things where you have the conversation in private, and every word that is said has been approved by a lawyer before it is spoken out loud. And then you agree on what the statement is going to say. And there are people, probably people from both parties, who are coming out and sort of agreeing on the verbiage of what you're going to say. And so it is very carefully worded and very carefully structured. And that's fine. And, I think you can talk simultaneously about the culture of accountability, or maybe the accountability has gotten a little loose over the past few years, and the level of success that Michigan has had. Michigan for years and years and years talked about the fact that the only thing keeping them from winning championships was their strict adherence to the rules. And so now you have what is pretty clearly a not very strict adherence to the rules in any number of different areas. And they have won a football national championship and basketball national championship, but they don't really want to acknowledge that there has not been a particularly strict adherence to the rules. So yeah, I think reasonable people can probably connect to some of those dots at this point. But I think it also is worth mentioning that you remember when Nebraska fired Bo Pelini for basically being a jerk, and then they brought in Mike Riley, who was known as like the nicest human being to ever coach football at any level. I think bringing in Kyle Whittingham to replace the atmosphere around the football facility, how about we'll say over the last 5 years or so, I think that's a little bit of the opposite of your ex kind of thing, where you're bringing in a guy who is probably not going to have some of the scandals, and someone who has has the reputation of really being an upright, do it the right way kind of guy, and a great reputation within the game. I mean, we covered him at the Rose Bowl a few years ago and walked away, I think, both talking about the fact that, man, we really respected the heck out of that Utah program, and they play hard, they play, they do it the right way. Kyle Whittingham seems like, by all means, a great human being from all accounts. He's been a head coach for 20 something years, and you really don't hear anything bad about him. So, this is a guy who you bring in, where that tells me that you probably want to address some of the cultural issues you've got going on. But the fact that you're addressing it means you do recognize that there are some cultural issues going on.
Yeah, and so we will see how the changeover happens. They're going to put out a national search for the next athletic director for Michigan, and like I said, Warde Manuel will help implement some of these cultural changes that have been recommended, and we'll see how that goes as well. What are your thoughts? Do you think Warde Manuel has been railroaded here? Do you think he's gotten an unfair shake? Maybe that, Tom. Maybe that's the title. Has Warde Manuel been railroaded? Go ahead and leave us your thoughts on YouTube. A thumbs up is always appreciated, and subscribe to the channel if you've not yet done so. If you're listening, 5-star rating and review is always appreciated. If you've not yet subscribed to the Buckeye Weekly podcast on your audio side, please do so. Buckeyes tomorrow morning, please do so. The time and change will surely show. Please do that as well. And of course, you can always find us. The best place to find us, BuckeyeInsiders.com. Right now, the site is up and running and live and loud, and we would love to see you there. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.